Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Friday webinar. Let's see, kind of have a special one today. It is the 100th webinar that we have done. I don't even know how we got, I mean, that's just an absurd, insane number of topics that we've covered. 100. Today is extra special because we are back with the first person that actually we're on with the webinar, and that is Dr. Stephanie Lamb, and she is broadcasting live from Costa Rica. So welcome, Dr. Lamb.
Thank you.
I'm amazed that technology today can just take us to different parts of the world, and so here you are. I want to know how deep in the jungle you are, and how long you've been there. I'm sure you've got to give us some insight on where you are exactly, which is, I believe, the Macaw Recovery Project in Costa Rica. So maybe you can pinpoint that exact location, walk us through what the great things they're doing over there. And I think we'll start from there, but I just want to welcome everybody. And if you have been on with us since day one, like if you have been on for every single 100 webinars, I really want to see you can you raise your hands? Is there has anyone's, oh, we had every single webinar. We've got a few hands going up here. That's just, that's amazing, because not only do we have these wonderful experts dedicating their Fridays to us, but then we have these wonderful participants that come and join us every Friday. So kudos to everybody for doing that. All right, so let's get started here. We got some giveaways to give away. We've got a lot of things in store for this next hour, which I'm sure is going to fly by like a flock of birds. So there we go. All right, so Dr. Lamb, you want to tell us where you are, how long you've been there, and what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have a PowerPoint to share with you guys again today, like I usually do. But before I start the PowerPoint, I am at the Macaw Recovery Network, and I have Dr. Soul with me as well today. So usually, it's just me and Arroyo, but Arroyo could not come to Costa Rica. He had to stay home. So I have a different guest with me today. And she is the vet here at Macaw Recovery Network. So she gets to work out here in Costa Rica in the rainforest with these animals, and is doing some really awesome work. I've been here now for almost a week. I came here on Sunday of this past week. So, it's been really amazing to see what's going on here. And I have taken a whole bunch of photos and some videos for you guys to let you all know what's been going on out here, and let you guys all know about the amazing work that they're doing. And also how you guys can get involved too, because the Macaw Recovery Network is a network of people. And so lots of people could participate in some way and help out to really help all these birds out here to be wild and free. So I can go ahead and get my PowerPoint started if you are ready for me.
Yes, and welcome, Dr. Soul. Thank you for joining us. That's like we get an extra special guest. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let's get into slideshow. There we go. All right. I'm going to shrink this up here. There we go. Okay. So I thought the flyer that was made for this webinar was really cute, so I wanted to take it and use it. You can see there's the cute little balloon animals of little balloon parrots and the little hoop rings, so really cute. But yes, we are here at the Macaw Recovery Network for the 100th webinar, which is, as you said, pretty amazing that we've done 100 of these things so far. You guys have done 100 of these things so far, and I've been able to be a part of a portion of them, which is really awesome. So
a good portion, by the way. So
All right, so who are the Macaw Recovery Network? Well, at the end of this, I hope you guys are all more aware of this awesome group and what they're doing. But they are located in Costa Rica, and it's a group of individuals whose mission is to protect and recover the endangered parrot populations in the Americas. Their main focus is the great green macaw, so you'll see that on a lot of their logos is a great green macaw. However, they do help other citizens as well. And you can see down in the lower corner there, I have a picture of a scarlet macaw because that's the other big one that they are working with out here. They do have various locations throughout the country of Costa Rica. And I took this map here from their website that shows all the different areas where they kind of have people working. So headquarters is down here in San Jose. And then there's also a field team that's sort of at the northern portion of the state, north sort of central portion of the state. The breeding center where they actually breed birds to release them into the wild, that's over here in Punta Islita, and that's where we are right now. So we're on the sort of west coast of the country here. And then they also do parrot roost counts. So those are people who are out in the field counting, finding wild parrots and counting babies that are in the nests, getting an idea of what the wild populations are like. That's along a river here that kind of, if you can kind of see my cursor, starts kind of, I guess, like in the middle-ish of the state and sort of makes its way down to the west coast. And then there is also yellow-naped Amazon parrot monitoring that's going on in the upper west coast of the country at El Hobo. Is that his? El Hobo. So lots of great work. There is a lot going on here. But because we are at specifically the breeding center, I'm going to talk with you guys what's going on at that location. And again, that's the Punta Islita right down here at that portion of the country. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my trip to get here, what my travels were like, and then really go into what all happens at the Macaw Recovery Network. So as I think most people know, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, so I'm way up here, and Costa Rica way down here. So it wasn't too bad of a flight though. The map shows it going straight. I did not go straight from Phoenix to San Jose, Costa Rica. I did have to have a layover flight in Houston. And so, but I probably had about a 2.5-hour flight from Phoenix to Houston, and then about a 3-hour flight from Houston to San Jose. I honestly spent probably more time in the layover in the airport than actually in the air, but that's fine. So it was a good trip, pretty nice flight. But as you can see in the photo here, I don't know if you guys hear that noise out there, but people are actually doing work, which is really, I'm going to show you guys all the amazing work that these people do out here. So they're even working out there right now, and it's a bit warm out there. They're doing a good job. But if you look at the photo here of the airplane, this is the actual flight that I was on, you'll see that it's just covered in clouds. And when you're up in an airplane, you don't know what's going on down on the ground. But while I was up in the air, it was raining the whole time that I was up in the air. And when I landed, I'm going to go back to this map here, just because it's kind of a little bit bigger, but I landed in San Jose and I'm supposed to go over to Punta Islita. And that trip from the San Jose airport to Punta Islita is another like about 5-hour trip. And I had a shuttle to transport me on that trip. But when I landed, I was told that, hey, it rained quite a bit. You might not actually be able to get out to where you need to be, because again, with where we are in the rainforest, and we're in a little bit of a remote area because that's where we need to be in order to be having a place for these birds to safely be able to breed and be successfully released. So that means if it's raining a lot and we're in the middle of nowhere, then there potentially could be roads that go down. So here's a picture of what the road was like in one of the areas close to where we were trying to go. little video.
Wow.
So,
Whoa.
yeah, so at the start of that video, that was a bridge. And so the bridge had completely like been covered over with water. It had flooded. So I couldn't get out at the time that I was supposed to. So the shuttle that I had took me to a place pretty close by, only about 45-minute drive, called Samara. And it was a little bit more of like a touristy town, I guess you would say. And it was nice because they put me up there for a night until the roads were better, and I just got to hang out on the beach and see some neat birds. This bird here is a white-throated magpie jay, and then also these are just some black vultures that I hung out with on the beach. So it wasn't so bad having to end up somewhere where I wasn't expecting to end up for just a short period of time. I was probably only there for, I don't know, maybe like 12 hours. But then the Macaw Recovery Network came and picked me up from there once the roads were deemed to be safe. But I thought it was really funny because they have this great big vehicle and this tiny little sticker. So, but here is the sticker for their emblem. And that again is the great green macaw.
Nice.
So along the way, they picked me up. But you know, when you're out here working with these animals, time is a resource. And so not only did they pick me up, but they had to also do some sort of chores along the way, right? And because they're coming into town, they got other things done that they needed to do. And where we stopped on our way back to the center was we actually stopped at this place that had all this lumber. And we picked up some lumber, and here we are taking it into the truck. And my first question was, well, what is all this lumber for? And it's actually for the nest boxes. So, you know, again, what is the purpose of us, of the group being out here? It's because they are really breeding these birds so that these birds can able to be released into the wild and repopulate the wild where they're supposed to be and living their natural lives. But in order to breed them, they need to have the appropriate facilities. And so having these nest boxes made for them is really an important thing. And having the nest boxes made right is also really important too, so that the birds are able to safely use them and also want to use them. So, but then we hopped back in the car after we got our supplies and headed back to the center. So for anybody who wants to come visit here, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more at the end of the talk. If anybody comes to visit, they're going to be, you know, driving through the rainforest, and then they'll see this sign, the Macaw Recovery Network sign there, and then also just a little bit more detailed one saying who some of the, you know, contributors are to this facility. And when you drive up, it is a very sort of humble place. There isn't much there to really see when you first get to the center because, well, the whole goal of this particular location is really, again, breeding of the birds. So although they do tours and they have nice areas where you can walk through, the tours are really by reservation only. There's a hotel that's close by that will send people for tours. But they don't have, you know, like a large facility or anything like that. That is for people to just come as they please. People have to make reservations to come here. So you would see this if you first came in. Now, because I was staying here as a volunteer, they do have people who are out here working and volunteering. And so there is some housing for those individuals. There's not a lot, but there is some. And thankfully they were able to get me a room, which is really awesome. So this was the little place where I had stayed, and the road off to the right-hand side of the picture here, that's the road that's actually leading down into the center itself. So when you walk down that road, yes, it does look a little treacherous, but it's fine. It's a little wet, but we are in the rainforest, and it is also the rainy season. So it's definitely, if you come in the rainy season, which is it May through November?
Yeah.
Okay. So the rainy season is about May through November, which it's October right now, so it's still quite rainy. If you come, you need to bring boots for sure. And then as you walk down that little walkway, you get to the end there and you start to see some of these areas where these birds are being kept. Now, this is just one of the areas where the housing is for the birds. They actually have multiple different locations where they're housing different individuals. So you can see in the picture here that we have, here's a scarlet macaw, and then we also have some great green macaws back here. There's netting up here for privacy for them, because these birds really need privacy. They don't need a lot of people coming around and interacting. And in fact, they don't, you don't want to have a lot of people interacting with these birds at all. Of course, people need to interact with them in the fact of feeding them, medicating, caring for them, that sort of stuff. But it's a little different than the pet world, and if we have any people who are breeders of parrots that are watching this, anybody who has bred parrots knows that parrots need their privacy. And so it's really important that they have things like that so that the parrots feel more comfortable. But also the goal is to get a lot of these birds out into the wild, right? And so these birds need to learn to not be habituated to people and things that people do. They need to be afraid of people in order for them to be successful out there in the wild. So having screens and things like that up is really important. Just a few pictures here, more of the birds in the facility. This one bird is just in one of the cages here, and then we can see a couple that are going to probably be scheduled for release, and then an actual bird who has been released. And it's interesting because when they're released, some of them stay close by, and I'll show you again a little more slides down, some pictures of the birds that are out here. But if you come to Costa Rica and you see a scarlet macaw in the wild, all those scarlet macaws have been released from the Macaw Recovery Network because they did go extinct regionally. And so the group is really trying to get them back into the wild again where they should be. So if you come to Costa Rica and you see a scarlet macaw, then you know that it is this group that is responsible for that, which is really awesome.
Wow.
Other just fun things to see while you're here, just a nice little river that's close by. That river, I guess, also was a little higher than it normally would be, again, because of all the rains that happened. So it was a little bit more of a rapid river than typical, I guess. And then just there was a cute little frog that I thought was adorable, and I got a nice picture of him, so I wanted to share. Okay, so now getting into sort of the daily activities of what is it like to actually be on the facility and working with these birds. They do have a very strict regimen because just like people's pets in their homes, you have to care for the birds every single day. Obviously, you have to feed them, you have to clean up after them, and make sure that everything's going all right. So these individuals who are out here are really working quite hard, and they work pretty long hours and most days of the week. But the first thing that happens in the morning is they go out to the aviaries and they pull all the old food and water from the previous day. And I put this picture up on the left-hand side of the countertop because I want you to see how sparkling clean that is. They do a lot of work to try to keep everything sanitary. Yes, we are in the rainforest, but it is still really important that they keep everything clean to prevent disease transmission. And it's something that we think about in veterinary hospitals all the time. You always have to be washing your hands, making sure instruments are clean, sterilized. There may be foot baths for areas, there may be quarantines for areas. All that stuff is out here as well. It's just in the rainforest. But they get all the bowls, all the water dishes, and they clean everything really nicely. And then they place, new water and new food back into the aviaries for the birds. All the old stuff from the previous day does need to be discarded appropriately, because, you know, there are animals that are out here, more than just the macaws. There's plenty of other little creatures out here that absolutely want to be eating some of that leftover stuff. So it's really important that they get rid of it appropriately, so that they don't have any vermin, because that can bring disease too. So they're really focusing quite a bit on the health of the birds that they have here by just keeping things clean. Okay, and then in the kitchen, where the diet happens, the diet that they have out here, they make for the birds. Resourcing some things in the middle of the rainforest can be a little bit difficult. And there are some difficulties of getting supplies. So they don't have any pellets here, although, you know, it would be nice to have that. Instead, everything is a fresh diet. But with the fresh diet that they have, we've gone through, Dr. Soul and myself have gone through the diet together quite a bit, and analyzed all the nutrients that are in there, and trying to get it to the most balanced ratios that you can get it. And so they're also not only looking at just one single diet for all these birds, they have to think about different diets for the different things that the birds are doing. So there's the maintenance diet, and that's when birds are not breeding, and they're not feeding chicks. And then there's a breeding diet that they have to give to the birds that are actively breeding. They're going to need a little bit more different nutrition during that time. A little higher calcium is really important during that time, so bumping that up in the diet is necessary. And then also they have different fledgling diets, you know, so the parents are feeding those babies, and that's really their goal here, is to try to make it as natural as possible, so that they try to intervene only if they have to. And so the parents are feeding those young, so they need to make sure they're feeding the parents right, so that the babies get the appropriate nutrition. And then there's also a pre-release diet too that has to be created. So there's quite a bit going into figuring out what is the best diet for these guys and how to formulate it. But you can see that we have individuals in there cooking in the kitchen, making beans for the birds, and then all these different bowls are doled out with the different diets for the different individuals. And here's sort of what they look like. This is more the maintenance diet. And then this one over here, right in the center, that diet, you'll see it has these big green seed pod things. What is that? I have a picture of it right here. That's the beach almond. And so the beach almond is actually a tree that's out here in Costa Rica, that when they have done their surveys of the wild macaws that are out here, that actually encompasses a good portion of their diet. So it's really important that when the birds are going into this pre-release stage, that they have that mixed into their diet, so they get used to what they're going to be seeing in the wild, and they start to have to draw back on those other things in the diet that they're not going to be seeing in the wild. And it's sort of a staged process that they are working on to work the birds up to the diet that they really want them to have as sort of the end goal. This is another natural food that is out there. It's teak. Interestingly, teak and beach almond, neither of them I hear are native to Costa Rica. They're introduced trees, but really they are the fruits from them. The seed from the beach almond really is the main thing, again, that these birds are eating, and they will eat different things at different times of year. There's another tree out here called Nance, or a fruit called Nance. Nancy, sorry. Nancy, that isn't here right now, so I don't have any photos of it because it's just not in season, but that'll be incorporated into the diet too for the times when it is out there in the wild. So, but I wanted to show what it looked like, because here it is on this tree branch, all these different little pods, and here's just one individual pod, and it's kind of like this fibrous outer coating that when you take that off, there's this inner soft fuzzy thing, but like it's really kind of thick. I like had to scrape it open. So it's interesting to see what these guys are actually eating in the wild out here. And then to show you guys this picture here, this is actually an aviary full of the great green macaws, and these guys are all hoped to be released at some point in the future. This is after all the bowls were cleaned, and they got their fresh water, and now their fresh food is being brought back to them. And I have this one little video here in the center to show you guys. So just a short little video, but it's pretty neat to watch them all coming in to get their food. They, you know, you can see there was a little bit of bickering as they kind of figure things out, but I should have taken the video for a little bit longer because, yeah, maybe there's bickering for a moment, but then they all kind of figure out where they need to be, and they eat pretty quietly after that. So it's funny because they'll be quite loud, and then after feeding time, it gets quiet. And then here's just a couple of scarlets. These guys are in a smaller area. These individuals are, I believe, not going to be for release. These are two of the breeder individuals. So they're in a smaller, more private area. It's still a very nice, large environment for them, but smaller than that gigantic aviary that you have all those great greens in that are going to be released. And I just put this one photo in here because I'm sure you guys have probably figured out I'm not the best photographer. It's not one of my skills. And I was trying to get this nice photo of the side of his face, and like when I snapped the picture, his friend's butt just went up in the air. So I thought, well, that's usually the quality of images that I get. So I wanted to share it as kind of a joke. Okay, so again, in the morning time, there's cleaning, there's getting rid of all the mess from the previous day, there is the diets and everything that needs to be given. But the other thing that I kind of wasn't expecting so much coming out here, but I think is really, really awesome and important, is they do a ton of enrichment as well. And, you know, we talk about enrichment for pet parrots all the time. And I guess sort of in my naive state that I live in, you know, of I mostly work with pet parrots. I definitely think about enrichment a lot because I think, well, they're in captivity and we need to provide them with lots of things to stimulate their mind and make it so they're not getting bored. But man, if they were outside in a nice outdoor aviary, yeah, they need enrichment, but maybe not as much as inside. But in reality, these guys out here need just as much enrichment, you know. These birds, as we know, are extremely intelligent, and we need to keep them stimulated so that they aren't getting bored and getting into behavior problems. So interestingly, the stuff that they have out here for enrichment is very similar to the stuff that I'm very accustomed to using. And we have the little sisal rope here that you know, is a safe rope to be stringing things together, just like I do at home. I save boxes and papers and things to stuff foraging things in. They have the exact same stuff sort of saved. So that was really awesome to see that we do the exact same sort of stuff. And then here's one of the volunteer individuals making everything together. She's actually a vet in Germany, so it's pretty neat to be out here with a variety of different veterinarians. But she is taking some of the teak fruits and putting them in with other, you know, things for the birds to forage and tear apart. And then here we have this individual who has made this really fun foraging thing that the birds are just going to have a great time tearing those leaves apart and getting through all those little pieces of wood there. So. And then other ways for foraging too, you know, there's just this fun little enrichment item of, we've got our watermelon, and they do get, you know, sunflower seeds in their daily rations, and when they get this sort of treat, they don't get any extra sunflower seeds. The sunflower seeds are taken out of their main ration and then put into this, so that there's no unbalancing of the diet that's occurring. And then this little bird over here, as you can see, enjoying that foraging item that was provided for him. And then also, what's really fun is the humans actually go and forage for the parrots and bring stuff back. So this is on the side of the beach here, and those are actually some coconuts. And this coconut was found out there, and you can see that it is growing a palm tree, and it was brought back and going to be put into one of the aviaries for the birds to have fun time tearing apart. So, and again, the teak that's in here as well, you can see there's little bits of the teak fruit and those beach almonds. The humans that work here go out and forage all that stuff for the birds. So it's kind of funny. All right, so the next thing I wanted to get into was the hospital, because, you know, me as a veterinarian, when I come out here, that's what I really want to know about. I want to know, what is it, what's going on in the hospital? What is the hospital like? What sort of problems are seen out here? Because that's what's really interesting to me. And I know we've talked a lot about avian health in a lot of these webinars. So it's interesting to see it from a field perspective. So they have it in this nice little place right here. And actually, this is where we are sitting inside of right now. We're doing this webinar from the hospital itself. And here's Dr. Soul entering into the building. And then inside, you know, we've got just a pretty normal clinic, very typical supplies that you're going to find, syringes and needles and blades and suture and bandaging materials and antiseptics. This I wanted to show a picture of because I thought it was pretty neat. This is actually their anesthesia unit. And so this anesthesia unit was created by a veterinarian who works with really small primates out in the field. And so it's actually a backpack. You can see it sitting over here on the countertop. So you can put this anesthesia backpack on and go out into the field. And inside of the backpack is where they actually have the anesthesia unit and everything. So it's pretty neat because it's small, but hey, it's all that you need if you're out in the field. So it's a really unique adaptation from what I'm used to. And then they have their little microscope. They do a lot of fecals. I put this fecal screening thing over here because one thing that is different for me that I guess isn't unexpected is that there are a little bit more parasite issues that have to be dealt with out here because these birds are out in their native environment, and hey, parasites are a thing anywhere in the world. It's just that the parasites usually have a very unique life cycle with their host and their environment. And so certain environments aren't going to really be as, I guess, able for parasites to be around. And so I don't honestly deal with a lot of intestinal parasites in Phoenix, Arizona. But out here they have to deal with it a little bit more. So that was a unique difference for me from what I'm used to. And then this picture here is actually a video of a few of the wild birds. So at the end of the day, the end goal, again, is really to be focused on getting these birds back into the wild. And so here's just a video of a few that hang out close to the site. And then here's a few more. Some of these birds are the same that were in that video there. But it's really neat to get to see them out there. And as anybody who does birding knows, a lot of times there's a lot more out there hidden in the trees than what first meets the eye. And so like in this photo here, you can see this guy very obviously, but if you look closely, there's another one in the background. And then actually there's one right up here too. You just can't really see him all that well because he's kind of well camouflaged. I do have another photo up here, but again, just this little red spot. But those are the scarlet macaws hanging out in there. And with the parrots, often you hear them before you see them. Okay, so you know, part of this webinar, I not only wanted to show you guys what is happening out here, but I was really hopeful that it could also be a time for us to get more people involved because, again, this is a network of people, and if the goal is to really help these birds get back out into the wild, it does take a lot of work. Not only is there manpower that's involved, but there's finances involved too. And it does cost money to have these birds well cared for and supported in captivity until they can be out there in the wild and on their own. And even when they're out there in the wild on their own, there's a period where the birds are being fed by the Macaw Recovery Network so that they can be more comfortable in their release, that we know that they're getting nutrition from human sources, but then also they should hopefully be coming less and less to the feeder over time and be out there getting those native diets with the ultimate goal of hopefully not having to come to the feeder at all. But if anybody wants to help out, I put up there the first thing of donation and the website to go to. So it's macawrecoverynetwork.org, and it's very easy to navigate their website, but you can get on there and you can go to their donation area, and you can donate in a variety of ways to help support them. And then also volunteering. So I put the email for if anybody's interested in coming out to volunteer. They do take volunteers frequently, and they need volunteer help because, again, getting out there and feeding all those birds takes a lot of time. And so the more people that are helping, the easier it is, and the more that can get done too, so if anybody's interested out there, those are your connections. Now, the other thing that I wanted to introduce as well is there is a wish list for the clinic. When I came out, I spoke with Dr. Soul here, and we talked about what could potentially be in the clinic here that could enhance the care that is provided for the birds. Again, we're in the middle of the rainforest, so it's not like there's a lot of resources around, and so we need to get more resources out here to be able to care for any of the individuals that could potentially come down sick, because as much as you try to keep the birds as healthy as you can, it's life. Problems happen, and all pet owners out there that are watching this know that too. You try to do everything you can to keep your pets at home healthy, but hey, stuff happens and animals get sick, and so they have to go to the vet. Well, same thing happens here. The vet's on site though, which is awesome. There needs to be supplies here to really support the veterinary care. And so I'm going to go through a little wish list of things that have been generated. But if anybody who is watching this wants to, purchase any of these things that's on their wish list, if you could email Dr. Soul, I have her email right there. It's soul@macawrecoverynetwork.org. And she will be able to say, yeah, we need that, or no, we don't, because this is a webinar, and yes, we're live right now, but it's going to be going on YouTube, right? And so somebody could be watching this in the future, and hey, maybe one of the things that we're talking about right now, well, somebody was super generous and awesome and donated it, and maybe they don't need said item anymore, but there may be other things, because as they try to grow what they have here and their resources, there's always going to be stuff that's needed in the future. So this is what's the wish list is now, but email Dr. Soul if you're interested in contributing. So first thing that I thought was really helpful for their clinic is getting them some different stains. As we've talked about in previous webinars, when we've talked about like different things that veterinarians like to do in the office, we've talked about gram stains, we've talked about cytologies. That's where we take little cell samples, put it on a microscope slide, stain it, and then look at it underneath the microscope to see what's going on. We try to identify what bacteria are present, the types of bacteria, yeast organisms, that sort of stuff. And currently they're able to look for parasitic organisms, but they don't have the stains to be able to look at the different types of bacteria and yeast organisms. So this would be super helpful for them to have to be able to identify those sort of things. But these little stains do require staining jars that you dip the little slides into, so something that's needed as well. Also, we've talked about in previous webinars about doing blood work and how important blood work is for the veterinarian to help them tell what's going on with the bird. And there's different types of blood work that can be done, but one of the things is a complete blood count. And a complete blood count is looking at red blood cells, white blood cells, and also platelets, which are called thrombocytes in birds. But when it's looking at those things, it helps us get an idea of, is this bird having evidence of inflammation and maybe there's an infection present, or maybe this bird has a low red cell count that can indicate anemia or something like that. That is all stuff that could be assessed in the hospital, but they do need some tools to help them in that assessment. And so these are some of the things that are necessary to help them be able to do those CBCs right here on site at the center. Other things that could be helpful, a heating pad. I know it's very simple, but you know, if there's a baby at some point who's ill for some reason and needs to come into the clinic portion, a heating pad can be really helpful. Again, it seems super simple, but it is a really nice thing. Now, the one that I put up in the picture here is kind of the one that I would suggest because it actually has just like a nice little like cloth coating over it that comes off and can be washed, and underneath is plastic. So it's really important that these things can be sanitized appropriately. And this one allows for appropriate sanitization. An ophthalmoscope. So this is something that's used to assess the eyes and make sure that all the different structures of the eye are healthy. And you know, it's something that would be very helpful for them to have. And then also a Dremel. Anybody who has a pet parrot at home knows that you need to be sometimes doing some grooming, sometimes trimming beaks, sometimes doing toenails. And of course, the wild ones aren't necessarily going to be needing to have this done, right? But the ones that are breeders that are staying in captivity, that are trying to contribute to those populations out in the wild, sometimes they need some beak work or toenail work, and a Dremel is really helpful to have. Other things in the hospital, this is more involving the anesthesia side of things. An oxygen concentrator can be helpful if we have a bird that needs oxygen support. They do have a little oxygen thing. Well, it's part of the anesthesia unit, where they will have one, hopefully. But the oxygen concentrator can allow for them to, it takes oxygen from the room and it concentrates it and then gives it to, delivers it through the anesthesia unit, or it can even be used in a like an oxygen chamber. Endotracheal tubes, these are used for surgeries, and so are these anesthesia face masks. So the face masks you put on a bird to help it go under anesthesia, but then we do what's called intubation, where we actually take a tube and put it down into the trachea to protect the airway while a bird is under anesthesia for any reason. Antibiotics, there's certain ones that are out there that could be really helpful for them to have. They do have some, but they don't have everything that would be nice to have with birds. Certain anti-inflammatories would be helpful. Again, if you're interested in helping out in any way, email soul@macawrecoverynetwork.org about anything of these that you might be interested in helping with. And then another thing that's super helpful, just having some hand feeding formula. Again, don't use it too much, but hey, if there's a problem where they need it, then it would be really important to have. So, oh, and the last thing that I have on here, this one is sort of like a big wish list item, but I said I'm going to put it on here because you never know who's going to be watching this now or in the future, who may feel very generous. But this is an endoscopy unit. So an endoscopy unit is definitely something we use in the clinic. And what it does is it allows us to use this very small rigid scope, and we can do various types of evaluations on birds with that scope. We can use that scope to look down into the crop and see if there's any problems down in the crop. We can use it to look in the cloaca and see if there's any problems up there. But also what's really important is you can actually use it, you make a small cut on the side of the bird's body, and you can actually introduce it into the side of the bird and actually see the internal organs. So you can get a visualization of how the liver looks, how the kidneys look. It can help with sexing birds to truly say if they're male or female, because even though you can do sexing with like DNA testing with feathers or with blood samples, there's always the potential for it to be wrong. It doesn't happen a ton, but it does happen. And so this would allow them to really definitively say, this one is a male, this one is a female, and allow for more appropriate pairings between birds to know that you're not accidentally pairing 2 females or 2 males or something like that on accident, and those guys aren't going to produce any babies, which again is the end goal, is we want to produce babies so that they can be released into the wild. So a definitely big wish list item, but hey, it's something to look forward to. All right, so that was a good tour through the Macaw Recovery Network. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can go back to that. There we go.
All right. Wow,
that was answer any questions.
Well, sorry, that was fascinating, by the way. And I was just thinking with like the big ticket items on those wish lists, maybe it'd be a great bird club, maybe thing that people go in on, or a group or something like that.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
And also the holidays are coming up, and if you want an outside the box gift is to donate something on someone else's behalf, there's also that option. So you know, if you're fellow bird lovers out there too. And then maybe, I don't know if you can actually find these things on like Amazon or at Target. So maybe like links to some of them would be like, if people are interested in some of the more medically items, to how you find those so they can donate them, or you guys have that?
Yes, some of the things are on Amazon. I actually ended up making a little Amazon wish list last night, but some of the more medical things aren't. Like the medications, those typically are going to come sourced directly from a pharmaceutical company. So those sort of things are a little bit more difficult. But if anybody is interested in those things, that's where you can email Dr. Soul, and then we have ways of being able to potentially get some of those things that are easier for people.
Excellent. Oh, so Dr. Lab, before we move on, we got some giveaways. I just got to give them away.
Okay.
Before we run out of time. So we're going to give away, let's see, we got some foraging packs.
Oops. Maybe his. Yeah, I don't know. Well.
Okay, well, it looks like Laura's having some technical difficulties. So I think if you just want to go ahead and continue, and then when she jumps back on, she can go over the winners.
Okay, no problem.
Well,
so usually at this part, this is where I'll answer questions that people have, but usually Laura is the one who says what the questions are. I can go down to the chat and I can pull up some of those. So let me do that, because usually they tell me the questions. Let's see if I can see anything in here.
if you can't, I can give them to you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, if you want to, that might be easier.
All right. So one of the questions, let's see, what is the time frame from egg to release? And that comes from Glenna.
So it is variable because there's multiple factors that could sort of weigh into it, but there is a group that is sort of set for release soon, and they're aged between 1 and 4.
Yeah, these one are like pretty old for release, but we have a problem with the COVID and that stuff, so we need was everything more late, but we're going to release this year, but we are made like an entrainment for don't have problems when we release these birds because we are really old.
Okay.
Normally we try to, when the babies fledge, we try to weaning of the parent when they have 7 months approximately. In that moment we separate of the parents and we put with a complete release group so they can socialize, and like when they have 1 year, the idea is release when they have 1 year, but depends of the times because we need the permission of the government and a lot of stuff, like maybe take time.
I see. Yeah, and I think that was something I wasn't expecting, is the permission of the government is really a big part of it too. You know, there's a lot of laws, and you know, you think you can just go out there and like release the bird. No, like there's legal stuff behind doing it, which I didn't think of before I got here.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes. All right. And so on that, so how do you prevent people from kind of poaching or taking these birds for collections? Do you have any trouble with that?
Costa Rica tried to like have a really strict law about that stuff, but it's really difficult because some people have these birds like a pet. But we, like organization, we try to give education to the people who come to the tours, or in the website, in Instagram, in Facebook. We try to like give more education to the people and show them like the birds must be free and not like a pet, especially here because it's an endangered species, sorry. So we need to care them more in the nature. I don't know if I answered the question.
You did, yeah.
Yes, I believe so. And then Catherine asked, do you have to worry about avian virus there?
That's a great question. It's not one of the diseases that's currently like sort of tested for out here, but that is absolutely something that I think that would be really interesting for somebody to research in the future, to see is it, number one, out in the population out here that's getting released into the wild, and if so, is there ever any problems from it? Because there's, as you have done multiple webinars on avian virus at this point, as you know, there's a lot of complexity to that particular disease, and there's a lot of thought that stress can be a precipitating event that causes a bird to have a problem with it. So like, if they're out there doing their natural thing, are they less stressed than in captivity? And is there less of a potential for them to have problems with it? That's a great question, and we don't know the answer to it, but certainly an area for research in the future.
Okay, and then George had asked, how do you volunteer? But I think you guys already answered that as you were going through your explanation of where you were and how to give to this great cause. So we'll go ahead and skip that one. And then SG just wanted to know, what is being done to protect the environments in which you are releasing these birds into?
Oh, so they do also other stuff for the environment too. Don't you guys do like some tree planting and things like that as well?
Yeah, in the Caribbean side, when we released the green macaw, part of the project is like plant trees, native trees, or try to recover the forest, the natural forest.
All right. Okay, so that is, those are all the questions we have right now in our chat or in our Q&A. So I can either have you guys just move forward, or I can go ahead and name the prize winners for this round until Laura gets back.
If you want to do the prize winners, that would be awesome.
Okay, so we have our first round. We have two $20 gift cards, and that is good on the Lafeber.com website in the store for the bird food. And the first $20 gift card goes to Judy Martin, and the second one to Ann Beck. And we'll send some follow-up emails to get your information so we can get the gift card codes to you. And then we are also giving foraging fun kits with along with a prize of food of your choice. Those go to Macaw Deese, Judith Riley, and Lori Berkeley. And that's it for our first round. So we'll have some more prize winners later in the webinar.
Awesome. I do see that there is another question here looking at the chat. And the question was, do the parent birds feed or are the babies hand fed? And the answer is that the parents are the feeders of the babies. They really try to make it as natural as possible because, again, with the goal of the babies being released into the wild, if they get habituated to people hand feeding them, because you know, how can you not love on a cute little baby macaw and talk to it and just want to, you know, love it so much, you know, doing that, the bird's going to be like, oh, I love you. You're great. You're a wonderful human being. Human beings must be the greatest thing in the world. They give me food. You don't want them to be like that. You want them to be afraid of people, to be honest, you know, because you don't want them to get poached. You don't want them to be able to be easy to be caught, to, you know, go into the pet trade, because again, that's not the goal. The goal is for them to be out there in the wild. And so they really try to be as hands-off as possible so that the birds think people are scary. I don't want to have anything to do with that weird primate down there that's on the ground while I'm up here in the trees. And I'm just going to hang out up here and be safe away from everybody else. So I don't see any other questions in the chat, but if anybody has any other questions, I mean, we have just a few more minutes. I don't know. I see that the Lafeber vet symbol is on, but I don't see Laura, so I'm guessing she's trying.
I don't see Laura either. I can go ahead and announce the next group of winners. She just sent me a message saying she's trying to rejoin, so I think she's still having some technical difficulties.
That's all right. And as we were saying beforehand, just we were laughing that she's in California and having technical difficulties, but we're in Costa Rica and we're just fine.
Yes. All right, let's see here. Okay, so the second round of prizes, we have our $20 gift cards. Those go to Kay Hill. We have another one for Sandy Priestman and Tebia Goosen. Congratulations, guys. And we'll follow up on all our prize winners with an email so we can get your information and make sure you get your prizes. We have a couple more of the fun foraging kits along with the prize of your choice. We have one going to Kim Chavaria, and I'm sorry if I'm saying you guys' names wrong, and another one for Barbara, and I cannot say this last name, sorry, it's DMUKAUSKAS. So you guys have won some prizes. Congratulations, and we will be in touch with you. Everybody, thanks for joining this webinar. I am not sure if let's see, I am not sure if Laura is going to be able to still join us. She said she's on here, but she can't quite get in.
Gotcha.
Well, so is there anything you'd like to add here in our last few minutes?
You know, just to point out again that if anybody is interested in volunteering, donating, or, you know, having one of those wish list items, if you want to just refer back to the PowerPoint, or I can say it again, for the wish list items, it's email Dr. Soul specifically, and that's soul@macawrecoverynetwork.org. And then if you're interested in volunteering, it's volunteer@macawrecoverynetwork.org. And then, or if you want to just sort of be anonymous and don't like to email, but just want to get on the site and donate, you can just go straight to their site. It's pretty easy to navigate through. And then also what's on their site that's really cool is they have a report, and it was from 21, so there'll be another one in 22, obviously, but like they have an annual report that they put up, so you can see like how many birds are at the center and how many have been released and all that sort of data for everybody who is interested in it. So
okay, very good.
That is all I have to say.
Okay, I guess we have a couple minutes. We do have a few more questions.
Okay, sure.
How many breeding pairs do you maintain?
How many breeding pairs?
For the Scarlet Macaw, in this moment, we have 6 breeding couples that we already know they can breed or they could be fosters. And for the Green Macaw, we have like 14 couples, but at the moment, only like 10 couples or 11, we know they can breed or be fosters.
Okay. All right, and then another question here. Do you tag any of the birds before you release them as a way to track them in the future?
In this moment, like all the birds have a ring, but it's more for us, for ID here. For the green macaw, we are starting to use a radio cooler, so we can search in with monitoring with radio method. Yeah.
Radio waves.
Radio
Yeah.
waves. Sorry.
GPS.
GPS. For the scarlet macaw, in this moment, we are not using nothing, only the rings, but we try to have a pattern recognized for each individual. So when we release, we can know which is which bird.
Okay. All right. And then somebody wanted to know if they wanted to volunteer, what time of year would you recommend, or what time of year are volunteers most needed?
So we need volunteers all year. We like most of the part of our job depends on the volunteers really. If you want like be part of the breeding season, you can come from November, December to July, August. It's like the breeding season between the both species, but we really need volunteers all year.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that does it for our time. Thank you guys so much. I'm sorry about our technical difficulties here. I can see Laura, but she can't hear us. And so she can't get back in here.
I just wanted to say one more thing, because I see over in the chat, somebody put, "I love your shirt, Dr. Soul." And I wanted to say that you can probably go to their website and go to their little shop area. They do have a lot of different shirts and things like that. Dr. Soul said this one's a new one, so it may not be up yet, but it will be in the future.
All right. Well, good to know. So you can find that shirt there in the future. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you guys. This is amazing information about the project. What incredible work you're doing there.
No problem. We're happy to be able to do this and get more people aware of what's out there in the world.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Bye.
Bye.